So figured I would update my progress since I decided as of last week that I was going to focus predominantly on Turian, who is my primary protagonist, at least in book one. And her story is long enough to at least hit the 50,000 word mark. I think it will also make it a lot smoother. As I said in my last vlog, it'll make it a lot smoother if I just focus on one character's story at a time instead of jumping around and writing one chapter here and somebody's and then switching. Anyway, and I have also, for the first time ever in my life, I have started plotting out scene by scene. I think this is the superior method. Previously, I have only used the 3-act story structure to make sure I hit all the beats, as I've said before, and then go through and create chapters. And sometimes I can have more chapters than the amount of, beats in the story structure, for sure. However, chapter by chapter doesn't seem to give me enough detail, and going scene by scene is really helping to fill in certain gaps. It's making it feel a lot more like a real book. It's just making it more coherent, and it is really helping get from like point A to point C in a smoother way, right? So I am really liking this. I am almost to the halfway through this outlining process mark. So I have the entire story, but it's still taking me a bit of time because of all of the different scenes and writing all these scenes. I'm closing in these different gaps between all of the story structure beats. And there's more world building or fleshing out of things involved in that. So it is a slower process, but this is also why I really wanted to get this done before Nanowrimo, because this is the kind of stuff that slows me down when I actually start writing and I'm like, shoot, I actually didn't figure out how I was going to get from here to here. So this is really super helpful. And I wanted to I don't want to show you because I literally have it up here and I don't want to like spoil my own story again, but but basically the layout that I have that I'm working with that is really helpful. Basically, I am writing in a text size of 10 for the 3-act story structure beats, and I have just like a small little blurb for that particular story beat, right? And then I'm going through and creating the chapters around those, and then the scenes again around the beats even further. And I'm writing the chapters and the scenes, spacing those out in a font size of 12. So at least for my own brain, there's enough of a difference there that I can see and make sure that I'm, again, hitting all those story beats, but it's clear for me what is a story or what is a scene. And then there's a lot more detail that goes into each specific scene. And then as I am doing that, I am going through and in my new Scrivener file specifically just for my novel Unseelie alone, I am taking all of this out of my Bible, my series Bible folder, and transferring it in a very clean way using like scene cards and everything on my Unseelie folder. So that's basically the process, and I'm really excited. I am over 5,000 words deep into this outline, so I feel like the amount that still needs to happen in it, this might be like a 15,000 word outline by the time I'm done. I have never had this clear of a vision for a story, and like even seeing it now and like how the layout, I think that's part of what it is too, seeing like what the layout of the book is going to be, like being able to see where there's going to be scene breaks or, where each of the chapters and everything. I've seen that before to some degree, but never this clearly and never with this much detail. There's been plenty of times in my own favorite stories that I've been reading and I'm like, man, how do they find like all of this extra space to tell all of this? This is it. This is helping me do the same thing. It's just literally just having scene cards. I don't know why I didn't start doing this sooner. Well, here we are now. So I wanted to show you guys something that is very special to me because I don't know if anybody else that is a writer does this, but it is a huge part of my own writing journey, I have realized. And since I've started doing this, which has really been in like the last year, at least for me, it seems to help keep my inspiration and creativity really flowing in. So, again, this might not be for everyone, but I'm a witch, so part of being a witch for me is doing things with intention. And so this is something, like I said, in the last year has kind of been an idea of mine, and I really love it. It makes me really happy. Part of my personal craft is creating altar spaces, because having an altar space or a shrine, whatever you want to call it, those are kind of a little bit different, but everyone's path is unique, right? So whatever you want to call it, I like to create little altars and shrines all over my house for different purposes, because it is a focal point for me to keep that energy in mind, whatever that thing is I'm trying to create or change or shift or whatever in my own life, right? And so having a little space dedicated to it helps me remember to dedicate time to that thing in my life on a daily basis. And so I've never done this until, like I said, this past year, but I actually created a little witchy altar for my book series. And I'm sure this will grow and shift over time as like my process grows and shifts. It's not anything super complex, but also because the story that I'm writing is very much about the history of the Fae and the origins of witches. Yes, I'm writing an epic fantasy, so it is my own take on all of these things. It's my own version of events, right? But that is essentially the point of my story in a lot of ways. There's a lot of themes to it, but it's about the Fae and the origins of witches and what witches really are, again, in my own world. So it felt very appropriate for me to create a little altar space with the intent of creating this entire story. It just felt super appropriate. So yeah, I'm going to stop rambling about it for a second and just show you what I'm talking about, because I think regardless of what kind of story you're trying to tell, regardless of if you're a witch or not, doing something like this, like I said, even if it's for the sole purpose of having that visual thing that you see every day that's like, oh yeah, this thing that I'm doing, and you put energy to it, right? It's really all it is. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So, as you can see, these little polymer clay creatures, and this is my little affirmation, and I have these 4 creatures here, right? And then, so part of my altar space is also the idea of using mirrors for affirmations and things like that. Now, I am going to explain to you all of this stuff here, but I wanted to show you up in this little tree here. I have these little let me get closer here. So these are necklace versions of the little clay figures that I just showed you. And what all of these are, in case you are newer to my channel, is basically these are the 4 guardians of the 4 main fairy nations in my world. And I made them all with polymer clay for this project that was also a part of the necklaces that I had hanging in the tree. It was all interconnected, and it was all part of my project that I had that had to do with my story that I did for the Lakes of Fire burn that I went to this year. So obviously, all of those correspond with the 4 elements, right? And the 4 elements in general are very, very important to the story that I'm writing. A lot of the magic, not all, but a lot of the magic in my world is going to be elemental. There are other aspects to it, but for the project that I did, that was the main focus, was focusing on the elements. Some of the other themes are a lot deeper and a lot darker, and those are really exciting, but again, I'm not going to get into that too much here because I just don't really know exactly how I would condense that down into something easily digestible right now. But this also works really well, again, with my own witchy path. Obviously, the elements are a huge part of that path. And so for me, having representations of them that are from my own world and my own creation is even more magical somehow. Like, one of the reasons that I personally love witchcraft is because you can take this practice and turn it into your own thing, and it inspires creativity on its own, because part of that is finding your own truth, finding your own ways to connect with the world around you, and it looks different for everybody. And so, yeah, I don't want to go into a huge ramble about witchcraft because it's not the entire focus of this, but that is something that I have done. Like I said, it's probably going to grow more, but the idea that I can come here on a regular basis, say my little affirmation specifically related to the intent behind why I'm writing the story that I'm writing, and have that reminder on a regular basis. Another thing that I'm going to be incorporating into it is I have some bay leaves here. For those who are not super familiar, bay leaves are heavily associated with, they correspond magically, energetically, with energies of luck, success, wish granting, and protection, among many other things. But these are all obviously things that I want to keep with me, right? And one of the little witchy folklore things that you can do with bay leaves is to take a bay leaf, obviously one that's not super crumpled up. You can use it in a lot of different ways, but one way that's super traditional is to take a full bay leaf and write out a tiny version of what your wish is. And you can keep it under your pillow, or you can bury it, you can throw it in a stream, really whatever kind of speaks to you. Again, witchcraft is very intuitive, so it kind of depends on how all this speaks to you. If anybody watching this is curious for me to dive deeper into this topic, I am totally open to do that. But again, I'm trying to kind of give more of a writing vlog. This is just part of my own writing process. So yeah, let me know how much you want me to deep dive into this, but I'm going to have a lot of fun with that. I wasn't even going to do the bay leaf thing specifically, but I was literally just at the store the other day, and as I walked past, I just felt like I had to buy bay leaves and do this, which I haven't used this particular bay leaf spell in a very long time. So that said, these are just some ideas for you. Do you guys have any different kinds of things that are uniquely your own part of the writing process that aren't specifically writing or specifically related to crafting your story? Are there anything do you do any kind of ritual type thing to get yourself in the right headspace or keep your inspiration flowing? I would love to hear about it in the comments below if you do, because I don't know, I don't really hear too many people talk about this kind of stuff, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that does something different in this nature. So what do you do? Oh my God, y'all. Okay, so I don't know if this is something that, everyone's process is different, right? But since I started working on this story, whenever I'm going really hard on, just focusing all of my spare time on writing, like I have been recently, because some months I'm just super busy or whatever, right? Sometimes my brain needs a break, or I want to jump into somebody else's story. But when I'm going really, really hard in my own stories, I'll have these, periodic breakthroughs. Have you ever had those moments where there are aspects of your story, whether it's just your standalone or your entire series plot or whatever, there's those moments in your story that you haven't fully figured out yet, or maybe you think you have, but you're still not entirely happy with it, or you're like, I could do better, or it still doesn't feel quite right, or there's still this one piece of logic that isn't really lining up properly and I don't know what to do about it yet. Those kinds of things, right? So I have had these kinds of things pop up the entire time I've been working on this process, right? It's part of figuring out the story. That said, every time I have one of these moments that I'm about to talk about right now, it feels like magic. It really does. It feels like just somebody came and just dropped a bunch of stuff into my head all at once, and it's like a story download. So yeah, that's basically what I just experienced, and I'm extremely excited about this one because in literally like a 15 to 20 minute period of time, I had to stop what I was doing. I was at work when this happened, and I had to stop what I was doing and just like spend that 15 to 20 minutes just typing out everything that was falling into my head. Because it was basically, I even like wrote it down and counted the different little like loopholes, or like not loopholes, plot holes and whatever, the little moments that I was talking about, that all of these ideas that are pretty much interconnected resolved all of these things all at once. And there was like 8 different things, which I know sounds like a lot. It sounds like a lot to me too. Like it makes it sound like there's like did I even know my own story? Which like yes, I do, but every time this happens, it seems that there's like more things in my story that like I haven't fully figured out, like more than I usually realize, right? Because like I said, some of these things it's like I think I figure it out and I think it's fine, or I'm not super happy with it or whatever, but yeah, 8 different resolutions all at once for different stuff. I am really excited about it. It's like helping me figure out a couple things about some of the different factions in my world. It's helped me figure out the like actual background, like origin story for one of my characters that like I thought I had figured out. That was one of those moments. I thought I figured out like who her parents were and what her history was and like why she ends up where she is at the beginning of the story and all this kind of stuff. And I was okay with it, but then this popped in my head and I was like, no, that makes way more sense. Well, have you ever had those moments? I don't know. I'm really, really stoked. I'm so excited. So, and really so far, and none of this stuff that I've figured out having to do with the like overarching plot of the entire series story, I don't have to like go through and like edit a whole bunch of stuff yet because of where I am in the process. I just had to like change a few things in my outline and like different scenes and whatever. But for the most part, like, yeah, I am so excited about this. I don't know about you guys, but maybe I'll make a separate video about this because I don't want this one to get super long. But do you guys ever feel like when you are writing that when you get in that really intense writing flow state, do you ever feel like it's like a type of like, this must be what like channeling feels like, you know, like I have my own opinions when it comes to channeling, and this is not a video about my own personal spiritual path or whatever, but I've never considered myself like a channeler or something like that. Again, I have opinions. I'm not going to fall down that rabbit hole right now. That said, this is the one type of thing that I have ever done in my life that even as a witch, this is what makes me feel like I am channeling, because it happens with characters, it happens with the overall story, like just the way that things will sometimes just like fall into place the way they do, just like boom, boom, boom. I don't know. Maybe it's just natural brain magic or something, and that's just how the brain works. But especially when it's like characters and stuff, I'm just kind of like, you're definitely not the same thing as like a spirit guide or, you know, anything like along those lines. And you also don't feel like any piece of myself. You feel like you have your own personality. Like, who are you? Where do you come from? Like, these are some of the things that I literally ask my characters. Like, not even just in the brainstorming process. Like, it does help with that, but also it's just like a general curiosity. Like, where do these characters come from? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just rambling now, but I am just in such a good mood, y'all. Anyway, thank you for following this. I think I'm going to wrap this particular vlog up, and I will see y'all again very, very soon. If you like this, if you want to keep following, please comment below. What's your process looking like? Update me. I totally do want to hear about you guys' journey with this as well. And please like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. It really helps me out. And I'll see y'all very, very soon. Happy writing.